Hey guys, we're just going to wait a few minutes to make sure everybody gets on the call, and then we will get started. A lot of information to share, a lot of people. Here we're going to share a lot of information, then we're going to brainstorm. Shelly's here to share all the, hopefully the most updated. I heard there's just some new stuff, but to share all of the information on funding available to us. And we've got Trevor Lewington and Cindy Boss should be joining us to talk about the recovery task force and all the other resources available to us and the ways that they're helping. And then we've got a bunch of brilliant entrepreneurs on here who are making money even though they're closed, who have come up with really creative ways to make money in different ways. So, and I also have some examples to share. So we'll get started in like 2 minutes. Are you going to watch the chat on Facebook if there's anything? Okay. Okay, guys, give me a wave if you can hear me. Awesome. Well, that was nice. A whole bunch of waves at once. Okay, so the agenda of the call is going to be, I'm going to start, I'm going to talk, I'm going to show a quick little budget template that I use with my clients and go through a scenario that I did yesterday with somebody who basically closed down their business and assumed they were going to be losing thousands of dollars a month. And we kind of came up with a new scenario where they're actually able to put about $8,000 in the bank during the months when they're closed. So that'll be my first part. I want to talk about mindset very quickly. Then we're going to get into brainstorming everybody's ideas on how we can make money even with our doors closed. And thankfully we have some really knowledgeable experts here. I saw there was an update. Trevor, you said 3:30 today. I haven't seen that one obviously yet, so we're definitely going to need to hear from you what those restrictions are, maybe before we start the brainstorming, because what I had understood in Ontario, businesses that had been closed were still able to do, they were still able to do sales in certain ways, but we'll have to find out what those rules are here. We're going to brainstorm, we're going to share, we're going to talk about a bunch of ideas that businesses have put together that are still making money. And then we're going to get Shelly to tell us about all of the federal and provincial assistance available to us and how to take advantage of it, business owners, and as human beings, parents, any of the benefits that are available. Then we're going to have Cindy Boss and Trevor Lewington talk about the Lethbridge Region Recovery Task Force. They're actively planning for the work required in the coming weeks and months to get Southern Alberta's economy back on track. So it sounds like we've got a lot of great stuff. I mean, starting with this morning's announcement, so much great stuff is happening today. I know I'm probably not the only one who's been feeling a little bit defeated, a little bit scared, and a little bit anxious over the past few weeks, but I'm starting to feel like today there's really starting to be some good news. And finally, we have Stephen Mogden, my favorite lawyer, on the call to answer questions about how we can apply the law in these situations or how the law applies. I know, Stephen, I have some questions for you from some people I know who couldn't get on the call, so I'll ask those ones on their behalf. So let's talk first, really quick. I want to talk about mindset really quick. So I have been somewhat criticized, harshly by some people, but not harshly by most, just for being too positive or too optimistic during this time. Or would you like to close that door for me? Thank you. And just sort of focusing on like, be positive, everything will be okay. You know, when people are kind of saying, no, it's not okay. You know, like you shouldn't be positive, that's ridiculous. And I just want to kind of explain that. I want to start with a little mindset activity and with a positivity exercise, because the reason I ask you to be positive and the reason I demand my clients to be positive, and my husband demands this of me, and I demand this of my business partner and my staff, because if you're not positive, you're not feeling good, you can't be creative. Those solutions won't come, right? Like if you're just angry and frustrated and scared and fearful, it's really hard to come up with solutions. So to start today's call, I just wanted all of us to take a second. You can close your eyes, you can keep your eyes open, whatever you want to do. But we're all going to take a nice deep breath, and we're going to picture something that we're grateful for 20 seconds. So humor me. Anything. Just picture something you're grateful for. Think about it for 20 seconds. Really, really think about it. Okay, guys. So ready to start the call. I just want to give you kudos again. I always want to acknowledge people who are on calls like this. This is leadership at its best. You guys are here trying to be better, trying to get information, trying to figure out what you can do for your customers, your team, your business. And I'm so honored to be a part of a group of individuals like this. I'm so honored that you guys gave up your time to be on this call with me today. If we do have anybody join, I've had some people on social media being they think, you know, some things like we're all being tricked by the government and this is a way to control us and I'm an idiot and anything like that. If anything of that comes up, I practiced before and I know how to kick those people off. So those comments shall not be tolerated. Please be open-minded, please be positive. This is a group of people that's giving their time to us to help each other. So let's get into it. First one I want to talk about is, I'm going to share my screen here with you. I'm just going to show you this budget. So it is very much just a portion of a budget, not a whole budget. So usually our budgets are gigantic. We'll have every month, we'll have a goal for the month, an actual for the month, year-to-date goal, year-to-date actual, and sometimes even the last year's numbers. But for today's purpose, what I did was I got permission from someone who I helped the other day go from really scared, crying, thinking they were going to go bankrupt, with a closed business. I got them from that place. We went through their budget together and we got them to this place, which is rather than losing thousands of dollars a month, they're going to be putting $7,361 in the bank. So instead of losing money, putting money in. And so a lot of people are like, can't make any money when I'm closed, I'm screwed, I don't believe that's true. And in a particular business, there may be no creative situation, but there might be some other thing that you can do while that business is closed. So let's get into this. So first I want to acknowledge that everyone should have a budget. It's like the most important tool in your business. You should be planning out your revenue, your expenses, and your profit. And your balance sheet payments. And if you're not, you got to get one. There's a free template on our site you can download and use it. All the formulas are in there already for you. Because when times like this come, we go to our budget and we just redo it. So you can see in this business that year to date, this business was doing pretty well. They weren't hitting their revenue goal totally, but they were close. They were within 30,000. Their gross profit was actually better than budgeted, so that's great. Things are going well there. This is all year to date again. And by the end of the first quarter, they had 150,000 in profit. So going into this recession that we're going to go into, not a bad place to be, right? But then all of a sudden you get closed and you're a business that touches people and you have service providers and you can no longer touch people, or, wow, that sounds bad. You cannot provide services anymore. So you think that you have no way of hitting your goals, right? So in April, our budget here for total income in the past, this would have been, like $75,000 maybe for monthly revenue. But now we have to go through and say, okay, what can we do in this business? We figured out that we have about $3,000 worth of retail that we can sell really easily, because the retail stuff actually accomplishes some of the things that the people want and would get from the service. So we're going to sell that retail. We're going to do that through social media and contactless delivery or curbside contactless pickup. Then here we have teaching a virtual class. So to other people who do the same thing that this person does, she's able to teach these classes to other people who need continuing education credits anyways, who always pay for these courses anyways. So we put that in there. And then she's going to deliver her services virtually. And she only has to do, I think, 50 of these appointments, virtual appointments, and we've already got a bunch of people interested. So then sell a recording of this service. So it's a service that you can teach someone else to do for you. So you can, like, your husband can do this for you, sort of thing. So we came up with all this stuff, and all these numbers were very realistic. She figured in 4 hours a week, she could hit these goals. And we came from not having any revenue to having 9,000, which is really not much, right? But it's something. So then we looked at our costs. We know that we can spend way less on supplies. We can spend way less on a lot of things that we normally spend money on. And especially the labor, because all the staff are temporarily laid off, labor costs are zero. So that really brings the cost down. So our cost of goods sold goes down. And then our gross profit, 96%, that'd be nice every month. We went through each expense and we're like, nope, no advertising this month. Nope, no gifts for clients this month. No, no, no. So we went through every line. We're like, we're not spending any money here or here or here unless we have to. Insurance, can't stop paying insurance, right? They're not going to be paying for parking if they're not in the office. Their bank charges, unfortunately, they can't get rid of. They're not going to make some donations in April. Dues and fees not due in April. They have to pay for their phones. Actually, we could have deferred these maybe. Their lawyer's not charging them this month. They're not going to eat meals and entertainment. They're not going to have staff meeting meals because there's no staff, etc. So you can see we just went through every expense that we'd normally spend and we just pared them down. The one software subscription we couldn't get out of will be $90. And then the health insurance, which was not optional. They're keeping that, which I think is awesome. If your employees are temporarily laid off, I really think they should keep their health insurance, but that's just my opinion. Rent or lease payment. So their landlord was willing to cut their lease in half for the month. So we decreased that. And then we're not going to buy any uniforms or do any shippings or do any employee of the month or anything like that. And we got our total expenses for the month down to 4,000. And normally those would be a lot higher. So at the end of the month, there's going to be a profit of about $4,800. So that's a lot better than the thousands of dollars they figured they'd be going in the hole each month. But even after that, they're not going to take an owner's draw because they're going to get those $2,000 payments from the government monthly because their business isn't making any money, so they're not. They actually were able to do payment deferral, so they're not doing debt repayment, and their mortgage payments are deferred, so they don't have to pay that. So we do also have a plan to sell gift cards. So they're selling gift cards like buy a $100 gift card and get an extra $25 gift card free. So they're planning to do at least $2,500 in gift card sales, which is a very low month for them. So they're thinking that that should be easy too. So I purposely was not as optimistic as I usually am in budgeting because I know these are tough times, and we set a realistic goal for income, with alternative revenue streams that they can do. We pare down all the expenses. We're going to sell some gift cards. And at the end of the month, instead of losing money, they're actually going to add $7,400 to the account. So my goal for everyone on this call is to figure out a way to go through April in a similar way. After hearing from all these experts and hearing from all these genius business owners we've got on here, well, I'm doing this and you could try that. My goal would be for all of us to go through and adjust our April budget to, maybe lower your sales, maybe not, that'd be great. Lower expenses as much as you can, defer some payments, and end up having a much more positive bottom line than you might think that you're going to have right now. So I hope that made sense. Can I get a nod? Does that make sense? Yeah, anybody? Sandy doesn't think it makes sense. Thanks, Sandy. Okay, so now we're going to talk about, okay, so some ideas with that. We're gonna get into brainstorming, but some of the things I wanted to make sure I mentioned when I was talking about that budget. Shelley's going to talk about the government help that we might be able to get cash inserted or loans with no interest. We can do loan payment deferrals. I think I mentioned that. There's some working capital loans. There's from BDC right now, I think 100,000 or less for 3%. And I think today I heard the government's doing 40,000 at 0%. So I'll let the experts tell you about that. But there's also temporary layoffs with your staff. There's payment deferrals. One of the things we're doing at Shoe Solutions is we have a bunch of dusty inventory that we need to clear out anyway, so selling it at sale prices. Becoming the person, instead of the person who only works on the business and works outside of the business a lot, becoming that sole person working in the business for a while. So Lane, I don't know if you're on here, but you'll love this one. Lane and I did a podcast about this a couple weeks, and I'm like, work on the business. And he's like, but you have to work in it too to make it effective. And he's so right, especially right now. If you can be the only person working in your business, you're really going to be able to cut down your labor costs and hopefully keep your sales going. And you can redo this budget every week if you need to. When we get new information from the government, or when we hear that we're getting shut down and we now have to do delivery only or whatever it is, you can redo that budget as often as you want. Okay, so this is the section where I'm hoping that everyone will, I don't know how organized this will be, but I was thinking we just all unmute or like maybe raise your hand and I'll pick who wants to talk first. But I'm hoping that we can all start talking about things that we're doing. Maybe I'll pick on Jeremy first too, because I saw him at Urban Grocer and he was like just lit about how well things were going for him. And he got me excited about doing this call. So maybe we should have Jeremy start and then we'll all just take turns. I hope everybody has their pen and paper ready because I think there's going to be a lot of good ideas coming. And hopefully we can either steal each other's ideas, borrow them, or like just build on them. And remember, the best brainstorming comes from silly ideas. So nothing's silly, okay? Nothing's off the table. Like just start being very creative. There's no judgment here. We're just here to help each other make more money, get through this time. Jeremy.
Really, you're putting me in the hot seat.
You're the best, Jared. Come on. What's with your background? You got a green screen there?
That's the virtual background.
Wow.
I'm in Milan right now, apparently, which is probably not a good place to be right now.
Hey, Chelsea's background is real, isn't it, Chelsea?
Yeah, hers is real. I know. I'm jealous.
Wow. Okay, Jared, tell us what you're doing.
We're doubling down on everything. I firmly believe since like the first second that this was going to happen, I was very active in reaching out to my vendors, basically telling them to hold checks. We're lucky we get payment terms and such. So from an expense standpoint, it was stopping all expenses, period. I made a commitment to my staff. I would pay them. Now, I'm going to be honest. I kind of thought maybe we'd be off this week, maybe some of the next, and then we'd be right back. It's certainly not looking that way. So I'm very on top of what's going on with now the 75%, the $40,000 small business loan, trying to stay on top of that. But specifically about just staying afloat, we just doubled down on everything. We've developed a great relationship with most of our clients. We contacted as many as we could. Now we actually strategically tried to break that out where let's deal with a third right now. And then next week we'll deal with another third. And the week after that, we'll deal with another third, because it was of no value for me to blast everybody this week. And then next week we go down to zero revenue. The other thing we got to think on our feet here. We're more of a tactile business. We're not really an online business, but I was in touch with my point of sale supplier. We should be selling online by Monday, so it's going to be a busy weekend for sure. We're going to double down on that. I don't know how that's going to work.
How did you do that? Using your
how did I do
POS?
that? Well, my
Like
point
just
of sale.
suddenly have your online store going?
Our online supply, our point of sale solution is called Amber POS out of Vancouver. They work hand in hand with a line called BigCommerce, a company called BigCommerce. BigCommerce has templates ready. What I did is I chose the template I like. I've got a guy I work with who I pay. Chelsea works with him too. His name's Dustin. He's great. And I said, Dustin, make it pretty, make it cohesive with my website. And what I need is just a base template. And then on Monday, my point of sale solution will put the widget in. The two talk to each other, and we should actually, hopefully by Tuesday, be ready to go at the latest, barring no big hiccups. Everything should be fine. It's pretty seamless. There's lots of people have done this before us. For us, it was never something. We're lucky. We've had 12 straight years of growth. Last year was our best year in the history of the store. So we just haven't really even thought of that because we've been so busy chasing the dollars that walk in. All of a sudden now there's no dollars walking in, so we need to chase them outside a little bit more than we're used to. So we doubled down on that. And then obviously the most thing that maybe some people have seen, I don't know, it seems like lots of people have seen, is social media. I'm a big believer that when you're too polished, when you're too business coachy in your delivery on social media for a community, a small local business, it doesn't translate well. I think we need to be very sensitive right now with economically where everybody is. It's great that we want them to buy. It doesn't mean they have money to buy. So I've really tried to be a little bit kitschy, a little bit down home with our social media, and I've just tripled the goofiness of it and tripled the quantity of it, I guess. And so far, the easiest way is through impressions to track those on Facebook, and I've tripled those, if not quadrupled them. I saw a few things that Lane put up, which were like, now's a great time to have promote something. Do a sponsored post is what I meant to say, because the engagement on Instagram and Facebook, all social media avenues, has never been as strong as it is now because nobody's got anything to do other than that.
And are you finding that those are translating into sales too, Jeremy, or just like clicks and likes and stuff?
Absolutely translating into sales.
Awesome.
100%. Now a few sales, like you said, with some aged inventory, we're not really dealing with that yet. I kind of need to save that in my back pocket for July, August. That's kind of a nice little cash cow for me for then. For right now, it really is strategically with new stuff, going after new customers. We've discovered that when we try and put out items through social media that are more expensive, that doesn't work. We need to be more price driven. So instead of putting a $300 item out, a $149 item works. And gift certificates, I kind of had to give them away a little bit. I did, whatever you buy, I'll add 30 points to it, which really I'm kind of looking at almost as marketing dollars. How many am I really going to do? In my world, it's pretty common for a $1,000 gift certificate, $1,000 gift certificate. So with each one of those, I had to add $300 to it. But in the first couple of days, we had about $6,500 in revenue that we normally wouldn't. It's a bit of a catch-22 because I don't want to do too much of that.
Yeah.
I would love to have 30 grand. Then that cost me $9,000 in extra. But all that means is everybody who walks in May is taking product and not paying for it.
So, exactly. Great way to think about it. And I think I'm going to go to Chelsea next year because
of course
she's doing something cool. Did you have anything else to add though, Jared?
No, I don't think so. I think I've been trying to follow everybody else and see what they're doing. And in my industry specific, it seems like with the 25 or so different stores that I talk to, the avenues that I'm taking seem to be working best. Some other stores just have more wealth in their market, so they're just grabbing gift certificates. I know one of my friends grabbed 100 grand in gift certificates. But again, that's going to mean in May or June, he's going to have no revenue because everybody's going to start redeeming those. So it's really a delicate balance for us. That's probably the most important thing, is the delicate balance between, I just want to get 1,500, $2,000 a day at the most.
Yeah.
I don't want to blow everybody's brains out because I still need them to shop. The key is not today. We can survive today. The key is when we reopen. Then money needs to circulate in the economy. If money doesn't circulate, then
Yeah. I mean, I know, and I absolutely want to talk about all these strategies for making money now, but I also want to reiterate that now is when you work on your business, because when we reopen and people come flooding back, and they will, they always do, and they want to spend money locally, they want to support us, we need to have the business tightened up so that it works very well. Chelsea, do you want to share? I know that you had some really cool stuff going on.
We've been fortunate enough to just be able to modify our business model and go straight to contactless delivery for everybody. And then of course we were doing free delivery just so it was more accessible. And so it's kind of been business as usual. There's like one person in the shop now, so I am kind of running at full speed, trying to do what 3 people were doing before that. And then we did try and launch some like novelty items just to kind of spread some humor throughout the whole thing and incentivize people that way. And then we are doing the Bloom Buddy, which allows people to essentially pay for flowers now and then of course receive them once we reopen, as well as encouraging memberships that can be bought now that will start when we reopen. So some of those would, like, some will bring in money a little bit now, but for the most part, it's more of like that guaranteed income for later.
I think you should talk about the memberships. I don't think everybody knows what those are.
The memberships are pretty straightforward. It's just that you can sign up for like monthly, bi-weekly, or bi-monthly bouquets of seasonal product. And so that's just a fairly standard one that people are pretty familiar with. The other one is like pre-planning your flowers for the year. So that would allow someone to choose all of their special dates and then have like put them all in at once. And then we would remember for you essentially. So those are some of the things that we put out now. As Jeremy said, like I kind of had to rein myself in because when everything first started, it's kind of like the whole room was set on fire around you, right? And like you just want to start putting it out, everything that you have. And it was just kind of having to pull yourself back and really rein it in so that, yeah, you don't flood everything and then have nothing in your back pocket and all your ideas are used up right away, right? And of course, people won't utilize them all because they're so overwhelmed with the selection. So we have a couple ideas about like planning floral photo shoots for the summer when things should calm down. And that would be more like midsummer to late summer, as well as we had an open studio concept that we were going to do where people have to go through the training first before they can access it. So we might do an online training session for that so that you can pay for that training session and then you're all ready to go for when we reopen. So yeah, things like that.
Awesome. I think maybe Trevor, do you want to talk for a minute about the updates that we had at 3:30? Because if we don't know who has to be closed and stuff, some of this brainstorming might not be relevant.
Sure. So there were a number of announcements made at 3:30. They were a bit late, so that's why I scribbled down as fast as I could before we started this call. But public gatherings are now restricted to 15 people instead of 50, so 15. And that includes weddings, funerals, family events, those kinds of things. So that's a pretty significant change, reducing the number of people. And you have to continue to maintain social distancing at 2 meters along with that new restriction. There were a number of announcements relative to renters. So rents are effectively frozen at their current rate. Landlords cannot increase rents.
Can you write this stuff down?
At the same time, tenants cannot be evicted for non-payment of utilities before May 1st. Late fees cannot be applied to late payments for the next 3 months. And landlord and tenants must work together to develop payment plans while the public health emergency is in effect. So lots of changes if you're a landlord. I don't know if that makes any distinction between commercial versus residential. It just says landlords. It's aimed primarily at, residential, but I'm sure there'll be some provisions for that. All dine-in restaurants must close, but they can continue to offer service for takeout and delivery. I think most of our local restaurants are already there. Provincial parks will be closed to vehicle traffic to try and prevent people from piling up. Where is it here? All non-essential retail stores, such as clothing, computer and gaming, Services and shopping malls such as hobby and toy stores, gift and specialty item stores, furniture stores must also close as well. Now, the fine print on that, as we've been kind of talking in the chat here, presumably if you are still running, say, a clothing store or a specialty store and have, you know, appropriate protections in place for your employees, that you would be allowed to do contactless delivery. But it's all a function of how that order of the public health order is worded, and I haven't seen that yet. So it has pretty big implications, but the actual wording is all non-essential retail ... must close. So we need to find out exactly what that means.
They define non-essential retail. And
They have a list in this media report, but again, I'd be interested to see how it's defined in the public health order, because that's the legally enforceable mechanism.
And that hasn't been released yet, the public health order?
No, they're just wrapping up the press briefing right now. So I suspect that 15 or 20 minutes later is usually how long it takes for the website to be updated.
Okay, so then let's assume going forward that if we're not an essential business, which I think if we're looking at similar to Ontario is going to be, can you shut that off for me, Laura? Is going to be what? Healthcare, right? Construction, is it?
Yeah.
Grocery, takeout restaurant. What else is essential?
Convenience stores are in Ontario.
Oh, and don't forget liquor and cannabis.
Oh,
stores.
liquor better be.
So essential.
It says supply chain, retail and wholesale, food services and accommodations, institutional, residential, commercial, and industrial maintenance, telecommunications and IT, transportation, manufacturing and production, construction, financial activities, resources, environmental services, utilities and community services, communications industries, research, healthcare, justice.
Is this Amber talking?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Where are you finding that list?
It's Ontario's. It's mirroring Ontario's right now.
Yeah, I heard they were going to be similar to Ontario's. Okay, that sounded like there was some stuff up for interpretation in there, right?
Yeah, like Trevor said, it'll come out with it's provincial regulatory. So.
Okay, so then let's assume, guys, going forward for the brainstorming that we all have to close unless we're essential, and we can still do contactless delivery. Should we go forward on that premise? Sound good? Think that's realistic, Trevor?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, as with all things, the devil's in the details, but there may be ways of being creative. And I guess the key thing to think about before you consider any creative solutions, fundamentally, you must first ensure the safety and well-being of your employees and yourselves. That's an occupational health and safety requirement. So no matter what you do, you have to be able to maintain that social distancing requirement and have appropriate amount of space. So just something to keep in mind for sure is how will you ensure you're legally compliant with those health and safety provisions, no matter what your fun and interesting solution is to do it different.
And how does that apply with contactless delivery? Like you just you put it in like a sanitized bag and you put it somewhere and then you just have to walk away before the other person picks up the bag, like maintain the 6-foot distance, or? Yeah,
like a lot of restaurants have set up separate counters, for example, so that they'll put the food on a table or a counter, they walk away, that the customer comes up and gathers it. Canadian Tire, for example, has plastic shields between the cashier and the client, so that there's a physical piece of plexiglass at every till now hanging from the ceiling, which is an interesting approach. So, you know, again, as long as you can demonstrate that you've taken every reasonable precaution, is what the law requires, then I think, you know, you can get creative on how to do that.
Okay. So that's a bit of a downer, but it's good to have that. It's good to have that information before we keep brainstorming. Jared, do you have something else to say, or are you just playing with your screen there?
No, I was trying to play with my baby.
Oh.
What we did today, Kelly, just for feedback, just trying to maintain all those standards. Literally, we put it in a bag that hadn't been touched, fresh bags out of a box, you know, clean your hands, throw it in the bag, throw everything. And I drove up, ran up to the front door. I didn't touch anything except for what my feet were on, put it on the ground, And then as I got back in my vehicle, then texted them and said, hey, I've dropped it off, so they know it's there. I don't know what else you can do beyond that.
Okay. I got some, I'm going to just start throwing out some ideas that I've heard over the past few days, just to get things going. And then from there, whoever else wants to jump in. Actually, too, Morgan, I might call on you to talk about your virtual physiotherapy if you'd like to in a bit. But hair salon boxes, I heard this one, I thought it was pretty cool. So I don't know if you guys, my mom has like hair like me, and then it gets really gray. And so if it grows out like this, she gets like a big gray strip down the middle of her head, and she doesn't like that very much. So when the salons are closed, she's going to be pretty scared. Well, I guess I should tell her about these boxes actually. But anyway, so what they're doing is they're sending out a video, instructional video on how to do your own hair. And then they're sending out the color formula for that person and the brush and the bowl, so that these ladies can do their hair at home. And so they can charge, close to what they would charge for an actual color, and there's no labor cost. So that's actually going to be making more money than they normally would be. One sec here. Thank you. What else did I have on here? So we also had, did you talk about your Bloom Buddies gift cards, Chelsea? I think I kind of covered that too, right? Like selling gift cards now, but adding a bit more. You buy 100, get 125.
Yeah, I kind of touched on that, but like as you said, you can spend 60 and then get 75 when we reopen, or you can spend 100 and then you get 125.
Thank you. And delivery. So is there any of us on the call that we think we could do, like, can we turn our companies, even like stop what we're doing and just start doing delivery? Or could we do delivery of what we already offer? Or could we just start a pop-up delivery company? Because I know delivery is like mad in demand right now. Okay, I'll just keep talking. Catering companies are creating date night boxes. So they'll like drop them off, contactless delivery with wine, flowers, and food. Bookstores are creating mystery book clubs, delivering books and creating online places for people to connect and discuss. Online training and access. So like people doing fitness classes. I think I saw Harvest Yoga doing yoga classes over Zoom. So people are still paying for their yoga memberships and they're still getting their yoga training. They're just doing it over Zoom, which I thought was really smart. I just have allergies, not coronavirus, by the way. What else do we have on here? Okay, so Morgan, you want to talk a little bit about your virtual physiotherapy?
Sure. So physio is obviously very hands-on for the most part. A couple of you have seen me and know how much I like to needle and all those things. But the main basics for us that have the most research behind them are still education, exercises, and just like sharing knowledge on how to better take care of yourself. So we're launching virtual physio as of this week. So assessments as well as just treatment sessions can still be booked online. And everything will be done through kind of similar to this. It's PhysiTrack. It's just the physio version, I guess, of Google Hangout. And we'll host those. It's still one-on-one. You can get all your exercises sent to you still. And then we're looking at actually recording videos too, so that you can see exactly what I show you, because it doesn't always match the preset ones that they have available. And yeah, just to try to get people in, but still respecting that distance thing. Because I mean, the manual stuff, I can glove up and do all that stuff, but it's still going to be in the 6 meter range. So, or the 2 meter.
Are you considered an essential service then?
Yeah, we're still considered essential. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Kel, do you feel like sharing? Because I feel like you have some really cool, you came up with some really cool ideas.
Yeah.
You can say no too. Sorry, guys.
No.
Say no.
No, I was actually just sending an email at the same time, so you just caught me off guard. Yeah, just a lot of the stuff that we're trying to do for in our business was essentially like, we're very similar to Morgan, obviously, like we're hands-on, we're with the client one-on-one, you're alone in the room together you're in close quarters. So unfortunately, a lot of the things that are going on right now actually affect us quite a bit because we can't actually operate the way that we normally can as massage therapists. So what we've been doing at home for ourselves is just doing a lot of like personal growth and doing a lot of like leadership courses and classes, because essentially when this all first started, we were like really unsure and we were like panicking, and it was very fear driven. So now we're just trying to do a lot of things that would help maybe make more rational and calm decisions for the business and things that we can do now. And then, like you said, working on things that would benefit us for when we are open. We love the idea of trying to do the gift certificate sales. So that's definitely something that we're going to be increasing or doing more of in the next coming couple of weeks. And yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that we're just trying to get organized right now at the moment. So yeah,
So you don't want to share it yet.
Pardon me?
So you don't want to share it just yet?
No.
The new stuff? No? Okay.
I'm going to finish reading my email first and then I'll get back to you.
Sure.
Okay.
Who else wants to share what new creative ideas they might have? It could be for yourself. It could be for others. If you're on the call and you're like, hey, I have an idea for that flower shop, or I have an idea for, you know, massage or anywhere, please jump in. It doesn't have to be about your own business. Ryan? Sorry, I keep unmuting you. Hold on. And you're unmuting yourself. Okay.
You got it?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so a couple things, just people are talking. I think it's important as well to be aware of what your competitors are doing. I reached out to some of my reps because Shoe Solutions is really kind of a combination of retail and clinical environment as well. We often sell what we do as kind of experienced based. And so it presents a lot of challenges when, you know, we can't be within a certain proximity of our customers, and when, you know, kind of the main, like you, Morgan, that main hands-on approach is taken away. So yeah, we think about things like video, but I reached out to a lot of my reps for a lot of the brands that I'm selling, and I was quite shocked to hear that a lot of my accounts have just flat out refused product. And so, you know, as you know, we've watched with the stock market and people pulling a lot of money out, and a lot of people that are smart about their investing are saying, well, you know what, maybe now is a bit of a time to buy. So, you know, I've just been really trying to challenge myself and my staff to look at the business as in how instead of just having a panic reaction and taking the foot off of the pedal, how can we utilize this opportunity to see what our competitors are doing and forecast? Because this thing has an expiry date. And if we're caught flat-footed when people come around and want to start doing business again and we don't have inventory to sell, this is going to be a major problem. And I'm shocked to see how many businesses that are far bigger than myself have just hit the panic button and stopped all shipments. So, you know, I just want to encourage people to look at what other people are doing in your industry, reach out to representatives and get a bit of a take for what your competition's doing, and maybe learn from that, because maybe now's not the time to just hit the panic button. Maybe you got to put a little bit of a foot on the gas in some ways.
Yeah, I got to say, Rye, like with the $40,000 interest-free loans that are being offered, what BDC is doing for 3%, like there's a lot of stuff available for businesses. I really think that when we just halt payments, we just stop paying our suppliers, or we stop going down to Purple Carrot, or we stop going to wherever. I mean, well, Purple Carrot's a good example because they won't be closed. But if we just suddenly sit on our wallets, that's going to make everything worse, right? It's going to continue that fear. There's so much help coming now for people personally and for business that I think we need to keep the spending going within reason, but keep supporting people, because I think if you just stop everything, you're just contributing to the fear. And yeah, like you said, when you reopen, you're not going to have any inventory.
Yeah. And one thing sorry, Jared, then I'll let you talk there. But one last thing that we were doing here at Shoe Solutions today was reaching out to some of our, targeted markets that are still definitely going to be working, and letting them know that products are still available and that we are stocked. And, this news today presents some other challenges compared to how we were communicating with them today. But now we just need to follow up on that and come up with some creative solutions to deliver products to critical industry that needs it right now. So yeah, anyways, go ahead, Jared.
Well, I think I'm a little bit different in the sense let's be honest, I'm a vanity product. So there's not a big demand for a vanity product right now. But certainly going back to the first statement I've been making for 2 weeks now is opportunities and chaos. I was already on the line or on the phone with my banker yesterday. RBC gave me an 18% bump in my line of credit without even asking. I countered with, I want a 25%, but I want it to be permanent. And they said, we'll give you 18% with 120 days repayment. That gives me a lot of capital. Ryan, just like your business, in my business, there's a lot of people refusing product. That's going to mean there's going to be product and opportunity buys available. So I need to put myself in a financial position to grab that. And the current product that I have, I've committed to that for spring, summer season. Spring, summer is a 6-month season for us. We're barely 6 weeks into it. There's a lot of time left to sell a lot of product for us. So all my deliveries now are coming to my home because we're not at the store to receive them. So they're being delivered to my home, and I'll process them here at home, and then we'll take them to the store. And then that way I can photo them and get them on social media. We're absolutely going to be bullish about fall, and it's our 50th year. It's not time to give up now. It's time to put the pedal to the metal. We're going to double down on everything. And one thing, just to quickly, with my accountant, I was talking with him quite a bit, and some of the advice he gave me was go after as much credit as you can right now, because with the feds leaning on the big banks, lending is never as loose as it will be right now. So his opinion was go after as much credit as you want. Don't use it. Don't go spending like a drunken sailor, but go after as much credit as you can. And then when you have that credit, take the money out of it and put it somewhere else. So if you bank with RBC, take it out and put it in your TD account and keep that capital on hand. If you don't spend it, great. It's easy repayment, right? If it's 120 days, like my 18% bump on my operating line, it's no problem. In my world, my operating line's 180 grand. So 18% of that, let's just call it 25. His advice was take 20 out of that, put it in a different bank account. If you need it, you have it. And if they allow you to extend the terms of the 120 days at a very low interest rate, it's never been cheaper to borrow than now, you've got that cash on hand. What you're not going to be able to do in 3 months is borrow, period. Because the feds are forcing the big banks to be loose now, which means in 3 months from now, everything is going to be tight. Their ratios are going to be out of whack, and they're absolutely going to need to close. Those of you who are fortunate to have a $50,000 line you've never touched, they might say, hey, guess what? Tomorrow your line's 25, because that puts their ratios back in line. If it's a $50,000 line that you owe 45 on it, there's not much they can do, right?
And you want to remember too that this will end. So we can plan for some lean months, but we can also plan to absolutely kill it in the last 6-7 months of the year. You know what I mean? To try and make up for those slower months, doubling down on what works. Yeah. So there's a lot of intelligent people on this call that have not volunteered to share any information. Who else has some ideas, some creative ideas to share? Because if you don't, we're going to move into the funding portion and then the economic recovery portion. But I was really hoping, with all the brilliant geniuses I have on here, to hear a few more ideas. Okay.
I'll talk.
Yeah. You'll talk, yeah?
Yeah.
Ideas?
So, ideas, yes. First, I know, Jeremy, you have tons of ideas, but you know what would be really cool is to see a fashion show. If there was an online fashion show, I would be thrilled.
6 feet away.
Yeah. So just wanted to share that with you.
That's my Instagram story every day.
I need to be following your Instagram story every day then, because I did not know that. But yeah, so different people on our team because it's a hair salon, are posting videos and how-tos and all of that every day, and funny like quarantine hair like hacks and how to do manicures at home and just stuff to make people laugh. I just wanted to share with you, and I can send this to you later, Kelly. This was sent in, I have a document about the hair boxes, and we are told not to do the hair boxes, and there can be suing and we can lose our insurance.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'll send that to you after just so you have that.
Thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's no real new ideas other than what you guys are sharing, but we're just trying to get everyone involved and showing their own personalities right now and making light and encouragement is what we're doing.
Keeping in touch with your team too, right? That's really important.
Yeah, we're having Zoom links once a week and connecting and inspiring ideas and thoughts and for what we're going to do for the next week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, if nobody else wants to share, then I'm going to get Shelly to talk about the federal and provincial assistance available to us. And while she's talking, I'm going to share my screen because she sent me over these links that everybody's going to want to see. So you can copy them down. Let me just see here. So Shelly, are you ready? You got your agenda?
Yeah, I think so. I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so it's changing on the daily for sure. So the latest information I had was from Wednesday, and then it changed today, but I'll go over some of the top stuff. One of the most recent is the emergency response benefit, which is supposed to replace the emergency care benefit and the support benefits, just because Service Canada has been overwhelmed with everybody applying for EI and us all trying to get ROEs and stuff. So they've tried to make the process a little bit easier. Plus they've added on who can get it. So not only, so before it was more for people who are off sick or taking care of family that was sick or parents that were at home with their kids. And now it's available for workers who still have their employment but aren't being paid because there's not enough work, and their employer has asked them not to come to work. And it's also available for wage earners and self-employed people, including contract workers who aren't eligible for normal EI benefits, but it's still super vague as to who would be able to apply for this. I'm still not positive that us as business owners can apply for it. But we'll find out more in the coming weeks because it's not available to be applied for until April 6th. But it will be $2,000 every month for 4 months, going back to March. So, but it also says that people have to be off and not making any money for at least 14 consecutive days.
Shelly, can I, just on the link page that I have up here for people, I can change this from 10% wage subsidy to 75, right?
Yeah, that link probably is not even applicable anymore.
I'm gonna stop sharing my screen then, and maybe you can send me an updated list of links and we can send an email out to everybody.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
And so some other things for individuals, the child tax benefits, anyone who's eligible for those already, they're giving everyone in May an extra $300 per child. So that's nice. And GST credits as well are going to get a bump up in May for anyone who's eligible for those. As far as what was announced today, it was big. They've increased the payroll subsidy to 75% from 10%. So before it was 10% and there was limits, and now we don't know the details. All we know is that they bumped it up to 75%. So they're gonna have to change a few things that they had in place before. And we find out on Monday more about that. And then, like you said, now there's interest-free for the first year, loans of up to $40,000 available, guaranteed by the government. And if your business qualifies, which we don't know what those are, the first $10,000 will be forgivable. So you wouldn't have to pay back the entire amount.
Ryan had asked about that earlier, so that's your answer there, Ryan. That'd be cool.
Yeah. So the other thing is with the corporate taxes, of course. So corporate taxes don't have to get paid now until April or August 31st. If you owe anything from March 12th till then, they can be paid then. And now they've added on GST as well. So if you owe GST, you don't have to pay by the deadline. You have right now till the end of June for that. And then WCB also has some benefits. They have small and medium businesses, they'll cover 50% of the 2020 premium when it's due, and large employers will have their payments deferred until 2021. And who gets that depends on the size of the business. So it's based on revenue if you're a large business, but most would fall under the small to medium, I think, for these. And I think that covers all of them for now until Monday.
Okay, guys, do you want me to give you time to ask Shelly questions right now, or do you want to hear from Trevor and Cindy, and then at the end we'll do questions, because Trevor and Cindy might answer some of those questions that you might have. Yeah, I just answered my own question. Sorry, never mind. We're going to keep going. So Trevor and Cindy, you want to talk about the recovery task force? I can never remember the exact Lethbridge Region Recovery Task Force, and then we'll have Stephen talk, and then we'll have a big wide open Q&A.
Perfect. So hopefully you can see that. We have formed with a number of our partners a Lethbridge Region Economic Recovery Task Force. So to be clear though, we're focused on what comes next, not necessarily what's happening right now. So this is a forward looking, so it's a little bit different. There are all kinds of government announcements, as we know, coming out just about every day. Cindy was just on the phone with our MLA. We've been having daily discussions with elected officials at all 3 levels. So really the goal is to get the Lethbridge region back to work as quickly as possible. So for employees, that means creating jobs. For employers, that means protecting jobs and creating new opportunities. At the bottom of the page there is our recovery website. So that's currently where this task force is parked. So choose lethbridge.ca/recovery. And all of those government programs we've got captured in a links section. There's some best practices and some downloadable templates. So everything that we're receiving, we're shoving into this recovery website. It's totally accessible to everybody. If there's something that you have that's missing, we're happy to add it. We're taking, strategies and suggestions. We've even got some business owner videos on there for people talking about their strategies and how they're coping. We're happy to add that. We'd like it to be a one-stop shop. So I'm immensely grateful to all of our partners, in particular Southgrow, the Regional Economic Development Agency, and Lethbridge Chamber of Commerce, both of which have come forward to financially support this work. So our 3 organizations have taken money from reserves and are actively working to fund the activities that are required. Already we've seen some incredible support from organizations like Stringham, NRBC, Pattison, as well as the university. So extremely grateful for other partners coming forward. In a quick nutshell, I'll walk you through sort of the highlights, and then Cindy can talk to some of the work that we've been doing. We're really trying to create this one-stop shop model where people can go to a resource, because right now all kinds of people are posting all kinds of links and it's creating a lot of confusion. People are not sure where to go. They're not kept up to date. As we just talked about, some of the links are changing on a daily basis. So we have a person dedicated to working through that. From a Lethbridge and region community perspective, we're being asked by different levels of government, what does stimulus funding and investment look like? What is it that businesses need? Again, we're trying to compile all of those answers and elevate the same answer, speaking with one voice to all of those different levels of government. We do want to avoid duplication of services and programs across all the different partners in the market, make sure people get referred to the right place. There are some key lessons that came out of High River and Fort McMurray and other disasters. And I put the current situation into the same category from an economic impact perspective. And again, we're focused on the future. And to Kelly Ray's point, mindset is everything. I totally wholeheartedly agree. And we do have to be optimistic, but we also have to face the facts. And I'll get to those in a second around how long this could last and what the impacts will be. So we're working really on 6 work streams right now. The first is to provide a robust set of online resources. So that's that chooselethbridge.ca recovery site. We're also working with the banks, with various government agencies to try and centralize all the financial supports so that it's easily accessible for business owners, that you literally can get a referral through one person and one agency to access all of those different programs. We recognize that mental health is going to be key, not only to surviving the everyday, but also making sure you're here for the long term. So we are putting together a bit of a formal peer networking group and making sure that people have access to emotional supports. Again, if you have some interest in any of these things, let us know. We're always looking to recruit some volunteers. We are going to be setting up a one-stop shop, a storefront, a physical place where business owners can go. So that will happen, of course, once all these social distancing requirements change and there's actually some flexibility to allow that. But the idea is you could go to an actual place. There will be people staffed there to do those referrals and connect you. The Law Society in Lethbridge has stepped forward. They've got a roster of lawyers, for example, that will make themselves available. We've had a number of folks from the accounting profession come forward. Insurance has also expressed some interest. So the idea is we hope to have a number of different experts continuously located in one spot that people can access. So when you walk in and maybe you don't know exactly what you need, we can get you going in the right place. Workforce retention and development. So we're working with Alberta Labor as well as the college on a number of different things around employee attraction and retention in our region and whatever might be required. You know, the challenge with both of our post-secondaries moving to an online format is we have lost a lot of our students back to their homes outside of the city. So we know that workforce is a potential challenge. And then in particular, we're focused on what other barriers are there. So, you know, a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, as all of these programs have been established, there may be regulatory changes that are required. There may be other things that we need government to take action on. It could be as simple as, you know, free parking in the downtown in Lethbridge, or it could be as complex as temporary foreign workers in the ag sector from a federal government perspective. So it'll be key to really address those and talk about those with government. Before I hand it over to Cindy, I'll just share a couple of pieces of information with you. So Economic Developers of Alberta did a quick survey over the last week, and there were just about 1,000 responses. And the number one concern of the business community right now is access to grants and financial products. So that is the number one barrier right now for businesses is cash flow. That number 2 on the list there, you can see that in some of the announcements today around deferral of payments and freeing up of different liquidity in the markets. You know, again, so there's a quick Pareto. So that's our recommendation to governments is to focus on those bottom 2. How do you get more cash into business owners' hands? Loans are interesting, but loans have to be repaid. And one of the key lessons in High River and Fort McMurray is that people after those disasters took on all kinds of capital loans, they took on all kinds of financing, and then you see a wave of bankruptcies 9, 12 months from now when those payments come due, because your revenues may not bounce back as fast as you think, and then you've got a heavy burden of payments that you can't make. So we're trying to encourage government to put cash in your hands as opposed to loans. Loans are not the right answer in the short term, so that's something to keep in mind. And then the other factor, and this data from EDA does match a national survey that the Globe and Mail talked about on Monday, but the general rule of thumb is that 1 in 4 businesses, 25%, don't have sufficient cash flows to last 30 days. And that jumps much higher, of course, once you go beyond 30 days. So, you know, while I agree with you, Kelly Ray, you have to be optimistic. The reality and why we're working and why we're sort of taking a hard line, why governments are moving quickly, is that we risk losing 1/4 of our business community in the first 30 days of this situation. And this is going to continue for a while, right? Alberta Health has talked about the fact that we will not see a peak of infections for at least 4 weeks. So, you know, when you look at how far that has to come down on the other side, we are talking months. And I think we have to be real about whatever actions we have in place, whatever cash flow plans we have in place, you need to be thinking in terms of months, not weeks. So I'll end my rant there and pass it over to Cindy to talk about some of the interactions we've had with government and some of the work we're doing.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've been really busy in the government end of things because, you know, that's the chamber. We doing a lot of lobbying and a lot of policy writing on the federal scope of things. So we're attacking it federally, provincially, and municipally. There's a couple things to cover in each area. It is a challenge as things are changing every day. And we are, for now, housing a lot of technical links on our homepage at lethbridgechamber.com, just to keep some of those links up. As Trevor was saying, I talked to all 3 levels of government today. And just before, I was late to get on this because I was talking to Nathan. On Monday, I have a call with the Minister of Economic Development because we're really working hard on what can we do to stimulate our growth in our region quickly. What are kind of, for lack of a better term, shovel-ready projects that would get some cash flowing going. That comes with challenges, municipal challenges. So I've sent 3 letters to the mayor this week. Today, we talked a lot about interest-free deferral for property tax. I know that's one big question that's been coming up in the small business group. So that's one thing we're really pushing for. On the provincial level, it's done their end. So now we just need, it's that transference from the federal to the provincial to the municipal. And unfortunately, that's not happening as quickly as we would like. Trevor and I are both doing a joint presentation to council on April 6th. We were hoping to hear a more thorough announcement than what we got today from the city. We've heard now it won't be till April 6th. So that does put some challenges out there. As one of the big things we also talked about was the parking fees in Lethbridge. So some of those things, cancellation of development service department fees, such as planning, zoning, so those type of things. We also have a call next week with the federal government because we're wanting to make sure there was some exciting, oh, what happened? Am I there?
We can hear you and see
okay.
you.
Oh, my screen went blank.
Oh no, we can hear you and see you.
One of the big things we're working on is broadband because we had just brought a report to the city. And what we're finding is through all these Zoom connections that not every area of the city is created equally. So we're presenting a federal policy to have the CRTC hold some of those providers accountable to the standards so we don't have little blips. So we're trying to circulate as much information out as possible, but we're being very strict on the information we're sending out because we want it to be very factual based, because we can't give assumptions. We need to be factual. That's the only thing that's going to help small and medium business in this country is factual, timely information. So we're really putting the pressure on to have that real-time response. And we're getting it federally, we're getting a lot of good things. We just need to see some of that. Provincially, we're seeing good things. We're just needing to tighten up more municipally. Did I miss anything, Trevor?
Okay, that would bring us to Stephen. So if you want to just start talking, Stephen, also I'm sure that people will have questions for you. I know that you probably had a few things prepared for us, but do you want to just give us what you've got, and then maybe we can start with the questions, and the questions can be for Stephen, Trevor, Cindy, or anyone on the call actually.
Sure, thanks. I didn't prepare a whole lot in advance, kind of assuming that people might have questions for a little bit later on. So that was kind of what I was going to focus on. Thanks very much, Kelly Ray, for putting this together. I think these types of forums, fora, I think are really useful. I think they help people understand that there is support out there, that there are ideas that businesses can trade. And as a result, I think we all feel a little bit less lost and a little less hopeless, I guess. So I think these things are really great. Whenever I come away from this type of Zoom meeting, I feel a little more optimistic about the world and my place in it and my business's place in it. So as a lot of you who are on the call know, I'm a lawyer here in Lethbridge, been practicing for close to 20 years. I'm with Stringham. It's an interesting time for us. I mean, at the base, lawyers provide legal advice, and the reason that they do that is to help people address uncertainties, whether it's in their business, their personal lives, the future moving forward. And in this environment, we see a lot of uncertainty, and that affects a lot of people on a personal basis and in their business. So we're seeing a lot of developments over this last couple of weeks, especially around the area of employment law. So small businesses are employers, and that creates some difficulties. It's a little bit of a challenging landscape right now because things are changing so quickly. Whereas, 2-3 days ago, the discussion around what to do with employees, whether you want to look at doing layoffs or reduced hours or what have you, that looks a little different than it might look in the face of a wage subsidy jumping up to 75%. So we'll have to see how that kind of rolls out. But that's one area where clients have lots of questions. How do they manage employees where they're experiencing or anticipating a dramatic drop in revenue? So certainly we can talk about some questions around that. Another area that we're seeing a lot of questions around, and Trevor kind of hinted at it before, is around sort of the occupational health and safety concerns. So employees having concerns over whether they are safe and secure in coming to the work environment, and what employers need to do to make sure that they are complying with their responsibilities. That's definitely something that's been occupying a lot of our conversations around here. We see a lot of landlord-tenant issues, more so on a commercial basis. And again, I mean, that landscape looks a lot different over the last couple of hours than it did before that, right? With some announcements coming out of the province just recently. We almost shouldn't schedule these types of online meetings until sort of a couple of hours after the afternoon briefing from the province, so that we can all kind of digest what's going on and fit it into our presentations and our questions. So there's definitely some questions going on with that. We're starting to see a lot of commercial landlords and tenants already getting towards that point where they're looking to work together in this environment, right? We see the province kind of mandating that this afternoon, but I've been starting to see it over the last few days where landlords and tenants have been approaching it more proactively and figuring out, like, okay, what are we going to do for a rent deferral? How do we structure that? How do we paper that? And so we're getting a lot of questions around that. We also have questions from franchise businesses, because franchise businesses usually have requirements that they need to be open or be servicing, whatever that depends what their business is exactly. But they wonder, what happens in an environment where I'm either, mandated to shut down because the civil authority, the province or the municipality or what have you, has required that I shut down, or what happens where I'm forced to interrupt my business or my service because of health concerns with either myself or employees that I have. So those are some of the questions that we are seeing on a regular basis now. And so, yeah, happy to talk about those things. Happy to answer any questions that people have around those. And that's kind of all I had for prepared stuff.
Guys, I know there's a lot of questions, and please don't be shy, because we all got together here because we're all scared and we're all uncertain and we all have questions. So please don't be shy. Please, if you want, raise your hand. I'll unmute you. We'll get you to ask questions. I'm going to start with a few here that I promised people I would ask. Also, questions that I have. And then again, Trevor, sorry if I re-ask something that you already answered me. But one of the things I wanted to ask about was about if the businesses are closed, if you know this. Like I'm thinking even my coaching business, it's totally virtual. I'm doing all my meetings online. So, and my employees working from home. So totally maintaining all of the requirements. But if all businesses are supposed to be closed, does that mean that I can't operate, that I can't coach people?
No, I again, I think in that situation, you're perfectly, you're keeping all the requirements. There's no concerns there, right? Let me show you just very quickly some examples of the text that's now online.
Okay.
So if you notice at the top there, it says, although Albertans are now prohibited from accessing retail, clothing, gaming, book, hobby, antique stores, these businesses may choose to offer online shopping or curbside pickup. So,
so important.
You know, so there's the key distinction is you cannot have people in your store. Your storefront must be closed. But if there's some way for people to do this contactless pickup or delivery, then you're golden, right? So that's one example.
Thanks.
And then on the personal services, you know, now they've said that no close contact businesses can be open, including that list, right?
Yeah.
And then they've also said that all health services, unless they're urgent or critical, all of these are now closed as well.
What if they could do them virtually?
So
like,
I think
like the physio virtually.
Yeah, I think virtual physio, I know a number of gyms around town are offering home workouts and their instructors are broadcasting and doing, again, as long as there's no person-to-person contact, your business doesn't have to be closed. You can work from your store or your office. You just can't have people come to you.
Okay, that's a very big distinction, because like for us to hear you're closed down, you're not allowed to earn $1 versus you just have to follow these guidelines. I think it's very important that people can hear that.
Right.
You know, like a lot of the stuff we're coming up with probably still is going to help us, you know, and I'm glad that you're on here, Trevor. I mean, I have my friend Lane to balance my eternal optimism, but it's a good reminder for me, you know, it is gonna be some time. It's not next week that we're gonna be back at it. But this is encouraging to me. I mean, yeah, please keep explaining. This is really helpful.
Yeah, so, you know, the generic rule of thumb is exactly what's here. If you don't have a specific closure order against your industry, or if there's not a specific public health guideline that affects your type of operation, the bottom line is you can no longer have more than 15 people in a single space, unless you're a grocery store. You have to have mitigation strategies in place, and you have to find ways of organizing that. So as long as you can maintain social distance within the physical space that you have, and you're not covered by any other restriction, this is what's required.
Okay, and Stephen, I didn't even know you could raise your hand, but it looks like Stephen raised his hand. Or is that old Stephen?
Yeah, no, well, it was a couple of minutes ago, but that's fine. I was just going to say, these new restrictions, in a sense, in some areas are not that dramatic, in the sense that we've already seen lots of stores closing up and not having that public interaction. You look at something like dentists, right? That was something that was issued, I want to say at least a week ago, where the college said that the dentists were required to only do emergency services, and they couldn't do the regular dental services. So in some ways we've already kind of shifted gears on these things. But it will make a difference, I think.
Okay, so the other question that I had on here was just covered, because I want to talk about if we could do contactless deliveries or other things if we're closed. Yeah, so I hope that's clear for everybody. That makes a big difference for me. Stephen, can we talk about the hair boxes thing? Because I thought that was so cool. And then Tanya said she got a letter saying that, you know, you could basically get sued if you did that. Did you happen to hear that idea that I shared about the sending out the hair products and a video teaching ladies how to do their own hair at home?
As you might be able to tell, I don't pay a lot of attention to what goes on in the hair industry, just because I don't really use it myself all that much. So I'm not really aware of sort of the parameters of those hair boxes.
Okay, I think it's like drugstore product is for sale for people, they can use it, but I think there's industry restrictions for hairdressers. Tanya, I'm sure you can speak to this, but basically only hairdressers are supposed to be using that stuff, right? Did Tanya leave me?
No, I'm right here.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's basically if they have any injury or they get any injury from using the product, like they're not allowed to be mixing these products up themselves. And so then we could lose our insurance and we could be sued.
Got it. Okay, that does make sense. And then Stephen, what if somebody, like let's say we're doing this contactless delivery, we're following all the rules, we're cleaning everything, but like someone from the downtown walks by and coughs on the product before the person picks it up, and we've sold them a box of shoes, but we followed all of the rules. Can we get sued if someone gets the coronavirus supposedly from our business?
In that type of circumstance, I doubt that would be successful, because you have a third party interfering with that transaction.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that people wouldn't try it. The other problem would be actually proving that that illness comes from that specific transaction and didn't come from the grocery store or what have you.
Yeah. Okay. And then I had one last question. For if somebody were to, let's say, massage, if they were to deliver, like, or Morgan even with physio, like if they were to say, okay, I'm going to teach you over video and record it just to make me extra liable. And here's how you do it. Here's how you massage. Here's how you manipulate the muscles, whatever. Is there any cause for concern there where, you know, somebody might push too hard or whatever? Can the person selling those videos get sued? Or can they just do a disclaimer on them?
I mean, theoretically, yes, the person could be sued. Again, I think the likelihood of success would be small. That doesn't mean that people wouldn't try. A disclaimer or a waiver form would be a great idea if that can be put into place without too much difficulty.
And as long as that's just at the beginning of the video or something, or do we need to get that signed?
Well, I mean, preferably signed is good, or some sort of acknowledgement if it's done online, that type of thing, click the box, that type of thing.
Okay. Sorry, Trevor, was there a place, I want to make sure we get good notes here. Was there a place that we could find essential services in Alberta, or we don't have that yet? Because I know that we had Ontario's definition.
So right now, the best place to go for all of this information from an Alberta perspective is alberta.ca/COVID-19. So all of the income supports, all of the restrictions, all of the details, the province is putting everything on that one page, and it's updated twice a day. So alberta.ca/COVID-19.
Thank you.
I just want to add to that, Kelly. We have been sending out letters to the government to model after Quebec and Ontario, because the other challenge that we could face is interprovincial regulations and differences. So we really want to stay consistent with other provinces. Otherwise, that can open up a whole nother challenge. So even though it's not officially announced yet, that's what we're pushing for.
Okay, to have the same as them. Yeah, Cindy?
Yes, exactly. Sorry.
I just wanted to make sure we got that right. Okay. Okay, guys, who has questions? I know that people on this call have emailed me questions and I've said I don't know, but there will be experts on the call who do know. So please, who wants to ask a question? Because I know we've got them. Don't be shy. Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, just in regards to employees, I had a question. I'm not sure Shelley or Stephen or who would answer this, but like I have a number of part-time employees, one that I just brought on board probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago. What does that look like for them if we were to lay them off? And then secondly, I have an employee that is part-time. He has a full-time job elsewhere and works part-time for me. And so I can't really lay him off because he's still employed, like he wouldn't qualify for funds. Would that $2,000 thing apply to him? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So for the second guy, no, the $2,000 thing, it sounds like only applies if you're off work and not making any income at all. So he'd have to be laid off from both jobs either way to get EI or the $2,000 payment.
Okay.
And then the other part-time employees, like to qualify for EI, you have to have so many hours of insurable time. So if they've had a job before, then they might qualify for the EI. So that would depend on what they did, really, I think, before, because you have to have over 665 hours or something like that.
Okay. And one other question, if I'm on a dividends pay structure, is this something that I need to be paying attention to, or what does this look like for me?
No, like how so? We can't get the normal EI, right? And to get, and it's very unclear as to if we can get any of the other stuff right now.
Okay. I just didn't know if that had any ramifications, like we can pull from cash flow, but I don't know if that affects us applying for anything else, loans or anything, if the government would view the company taking dividends as some type of a profit.
Do you mind if I speak to that, Shelley?
Go ahead, Amber.
If you earned at least, you have to have earned income. So you have to have at least $5,000 of earned income as per the definition of the Income Tax Act. And dividends do not qualify as earned income as per that definition. And therefore, unfortunately, a dividend draw won't work for you.
So that can create a good situation to, pay a wage as well as take some dividends, eh?
It could create that, but the government has said that you would have had to pay those wages and the respective deductions prior to March 18th. Beforehand,
yeah, okay.
But we're not clear if we qualify anyway, right, Amber, if we own the business?
Correct, yeah. According to Joe Devaney, which probably means nothing to anyone but Shelley, business owners, that legislation has nothing that would preclude them. So far so good, but there's not clarity.
Okay, so there would be no real caution or anything like that about just continuing the trend of the way that I would pay myself?
I'd say no.
Agreed.
And Ryan, just to circle back on your question about your 2-week or 3-week old employee, that person is a probationary employee at that point. So if you wanted to, you could terminate that person without any real dramatic impact on you. You did go on to talk about laying people off, though, and that's a question that we're seeing fairly commonly right now. It's a little bit complicated by when you see stuff in the media, you will see stuff that talks about layoffs in different contexts. So, for example, there was I guess it was about a week ago, a little less than a week ago, there was an article in, I think it was the Financial Post, that talked about the problem with layoffs. And that was written from an Ontario perspective, and they don't have the same legislation as we have here. So if a business is looking at laying people off, and by that we mean essentially not having people come to work on a temporary basis with the intention that they'll be recalled later on, that's a little bit easier, I think, to do in Alberta than it is in some other jurisdictions like Ontario. So people need to be careful about the information that they're seeing, and kind of applying that to their own circumstances. Really, it's better to talk to someone and make sure that your own particular circumstances are discussed. Yeah.
Okay, thank you guys.
So Shelley, if we have to temporarily lay off all of our employees, they now get the $2,000 a month or EI? Like they have to pick?
Yeah, they can't have both.
Right, and so obviously if 2,000 is greater than 55% of their wage, they would do the 2,000, they can pick?
Yeah, as far as I understand, the EI they have to apply for and go through all the rigmaroles of applying, right? Whereas the 2,000 that's coming about, it just has certain criteria, like you had to have made over $5,000, you have to be over the age of 15, and you have to be off, you can't have any other income from any other source kind of thing. So there's still restrictions on both, but it sounds like it's going to be easier to get that one.
I was under the impression that that one was only applicable for people who didn't qualify for EI. That was.
It is an EI-like benefit for people who cannot work and do not qualify for EI. Yes. So you're supposed to first go through the EI and then go through the emergency benefit. However, they're changing that every day, which is why, people like Shelley and I, we just can't keep up on it. I assume there'll be an announcement on Monday. Yeah, Shelley?
Yeah, Monday.
What other questions do we have, guys? Oh, Stephen, you have your hand up? Oh, looks like a little hand on your screen there. Sandy, you're a very smart man. Do you have anything you want to say?
Sure. Am I there?
You are.
Okay. As to Ryan's comment about dividends, I'll just circle back to that. As a licensed insolvency trustee, what you want to make sure, Ryan, is that you're still taking dividends out of positive retained earnings and not dealing with dividend stripping in a negative retained earnings scenario, because that could be problematic in the future. Otherwise, my business these days is strongly being centered around trying to keep people from taking rash decisions in the short term. And I think that's what we have to deal with every business owner on this call, is that it is changing daily. The future is uncertain. The court system itself is pretty much coming to a standstill, other than for filing of documents. I think Stephen has a strong sense. There's going to be no trials of issues for at least 10 weeks. And take your time. Don't make rash decisions in the short term, because we don't know how it will all settle out. And even if we do run into a situation where what I am dealing with a number of people right now is debt negotiation, not walking away and claiming bankruptcy, but looking at what can work for everybody. In a couple of cases, they're in the trades businesses, and what we have to work at is knowing that the suppliers need them to still survive into the future. And it's tough all over, but as service businesses, they're the ones that are going to be stretched the hardest in the initial period of time. And what my bigger concern is when we get to a recovery, is that people start price cutting to succeed, and that's where I think the problem will arise. In the short term right now, yeah, there are entities that will not survive the 30 days, as Trevor said. they're the entities that a lot of these short-term supports, they're trying to get the money to them as quickly as possible. I can appreciate some of the comments Jeremy made earlier about doubling down and trying to exercise his rights to access some of this money and credit. But let's understand that we are dealing with a defined pool here that's trying to help largely the service sector survive, as well as the retail sector. And how we address that as a community on a collective basis is very important as we try to make sure that we survive. There are legislative options that corporations and individuals can use to negotiate with their creditors and deal with matters. And my business is taking off in that area, of course, but it was taking off already. As everybody knows, this province is taking a double hit with the price of oil. Not necessarily here in the south as much, but it does impact us. And move slowly is one of the things I'm trying to address here. Don't make rash decisions in a time of great disruption, because as Shelley and Amber both said, we're having a heck of a time as accountants and business professionals and advisors just keeping on top of what some of this will look like in the medium to long term.
Kelly Ray, I just sent you a text message, and it's a breakdown that I got from the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. It's on negotiating the Canada Emergency Response and Benefit. So if you want to share it with the group, I haven't had a chance to download it, or else I'd share it on the screen. Do you want me to take the time to do that, or do you want to, or can you do that?
No, I can email that to myself and then.
It just gives a good overview of direction, but it could change. This is current as of today at what time is it? 5:38 Mountain Standard Time, March 27th. I think it's the 27th.
Okay. You guys see that? Cindy, you want to explain this? Oh, I think
it'd probably be better for if Shelley or Amber could, but it'd be important for you guys to review it first. I don't want to throw you in the, but Amber took a quick look at it for me. So it kind of gives that the employed and recently employed, whether you qualify, the yes and no, and then those that are self-employed and contractors, and whether they qualify, the yes and the no. So it does give a bit of a breakdown. It's not completely clear, but at least helps.
The only part for me that was a little bit, like it wasn't to my understanding, was just when you get down on the left-hand side, cause for leave, any, going across, and then the note, you know, that due to the EI backlogging, which there's thousands of people, you know, so due to the EI backlogging, it's looking like it's pointing us towards the emergency response benefit. But other than that, that's completely my understanding.
Trevor and Cindy, you guys seem to be the most connected with all levels of government and research and numbers and things that, and I would love to hear, of course, sooner than later, but I'd love to hear your predictions on how long you think businesses are going to have to stay closed and operate in this sort of we can still operate, but we've got to do it in this very special, way. How long do you think this is going to last before we get back to, like dentists, for example, being open, like to that level of normalcy?
It's very difficult to make those kind of assumptions right now because of, if we look in other places in the world right now and how long it's taken. One of the very encouraging things on our little south region is we're at 5 cases in Lethbridge, and we've been sitting at that for 5 days now. So, we should congratulate our city on taking this seriously. So, but, it all depends on what happens with our province, what happens with our country, what happens with our neighbors, so to make that assumption, I was very fortunate yesterday to have all 3 levels of government sit in on our board meeting. And it was very good to have all 3 levels in a meeting at once. We're going to try to do that at least once a week so we can get a better idea. But, you hear everything from end of May till January 1st. So you can't make that educated assumption right now.
Trevor, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about all forecasts is they're usually wrong. So you're guaranteed to miss it on one way or the other.
Yeah.
Again, I'll come back to what Alberta's Chief Medical Officer of Health has said. They don't expect the peak of infections for at least another 4 weeks. So it will get worse for at least a month. And when you reach the peak, the amount of time that it took you to reach the peak is usually the same amount of time as it takes you to come out of it on the other side. So at a very minimum, I think you'll see restrictions get progressively more tighter for the next 4 weeks, probably stay the same for a few weeks. And then you're looking at another 4 to 6 weeks for things to slowly ratchet back to kind of being unlocked. So I would plan 2 months for sure. I think that's prudent. But as Sandy was saying, I think it's wise to take a long view and kind of have a continuity plan. Like what's your 30-day plan? What's your 60-day plan? What's your 90-day plan?
Absolutely.
And make sure that it's flexible so that you can extend those timelines, but it will come back. So are you ready to seize the moment? As Jeremy said, can you double down and be ready to launch as soon as those restrictions come off? We need to, as business owners, you need to be thinking about that. But again, I would not expect it to be soon. I would not expect it for at least 2 months. And I would, be prepared to extend that. Spain, Italy, France are all perfect examples of how sideways this can go very quickly. We're in, as Cindy said, right now, pretty good shape relative to other jurisdictions, but it's so hard to know where this thing's going to go.
And I mean, the 1 month budget I talked about, reforecasting revenue and expenses and cash flow. You can do that, for the next 6 months if you want to, just to plan out, well, if I have nothing coming in and I have access to this much credit, like when am I going to run out of money, that sort of thing. Go meet with Sandy or someone like that to talk about that, or access that loan, that $40,000 loan, apply for that BDC money, just plan out your numbers so that if you can make it or not. I mean, some people, some businesses, they won't survive this, but if they're true entrepreneurs that love business, they might come up with another business that actually serves people right now that they really need it. You know what I mean? Like there is a lot of opportunity. I feel like this whole call has been quite sad and depressing compared to my normal sort of calls, but I totally get the importance of being realistic. That said, I mean, if your business has to close for 2 or 3 or 4 months, what other business can you start that people need and is allowed to operate in that specific way? Or, accessing EI or the $2,000 a month and taking some time off with your family. I mean, look at options like that. But I don't know, as an entrepreneur, I think if my coaching business had to close because of this, I would be like, what business can I start? I think I saw something on Instagram the other day saying in the last recession, there was like 6 or 7 of the greatest companies started out of the recession. So there will be opportunity. Unfortunately, it might not be the business that you have right now. But any number of the people that are on this call today, all brilliant leaders in the community. And if you want to connect with them separately, if you are too shy to ask questions in front of all of us, if you guys want to give us an email at office@tmhbusiness.com and you have a specific request, like I want to talk to this person, I'll put you in touch with them. I'd love to be able to end the call on a more hopeful note, but I think we've gotten all the information that we can. We've got some tools, and now we just have some work to go do to decide what we're going to do for the next few months. Yeah, Tanya.
I just have a question. I've never put anybody on temporary leave before, and so I was told that it goes for 6 weeks. So if we're forecasting that it's obviously going to be longer, does anyone know, do we have to do anything, or because it's the COVID crisis, will it just kind of carry into the next thing and they'll extend this temporary layoff?
Stephen, you want to handle that one?
So it's a little tough to know, Tanya, in the current climate facing this current situation, whether there's going to be any changes to that. But in Alberta, your temporary layoff period can be 60 days. And after that time, you essentially have to bring back the employee or terminate them. And when you're at that point, then the employee would be entitled to payment in lieu of notice of termination, which is that's going to be a difficult situation for a lot of employers. That being said, as Sandy pointed out, the courts are essentially closed right now, except for very emergency type situations. So nobody's really going to be able to litigate that type of situation for, I would say, probably 2 months from now. So we'll see. We'll see what happens 2 months down the road here. It wouldn't surprise me if there were some accommodations made on a temporary basis to the Employment Standards Code that might relax those temporary layoff provisions in a way that will assist employers a little more. So saying that and recognizing that information is changing at a fairly fast clip right now, the notion of boosting that wage subsidy to 75%, which I haven't really been able to look into that today, I've just been crazy busy. I think the intention there is for employers to keep people on and not resort to that layoff provision, at least for a while. So keep that in your thoughts as well as you try to plan moving forward.
Except my business is non-essential, right? We're personal services, so they work on people, so they can't really be in the salon right now. I thought I was told by HR that it was 6 weeks for temporary layoff.
I think it was 60 days, and then day 61, it had to become a permanent layoff, didn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure where that 6 weeks comes from.
Okay, I was told that, and I put that down on. But you know what? It is what it is. Like, we'll figure it out.
Kelly, Chris sent us a temporary layoff, and it was 59 days. So I could share that with you, and you can share it with everyone else.
Sure, thanks, Rick. Yeah, 60 days was the number that I had thought too.
59 actually, but.
Sorry, 59.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to say too was if you do that budget and you figure out how you can break even or even make a couple grand with altered business model, like even like Chelsea's the only one in her store, her staff are collecting that $2,000 a month and she's able to do her contactless thing and still get through, budget that out and spend your extra time working on your business plan, your marketing plan, like everything. Like there's so many things you could be doing to make your business better so that when people do come back, you're just ready to kill it. Because I think a lot of us, if we could plan it out, we know we can make it.
Kelly Ray, here's Peter.
Hi, Peter.
I just want to make a quick note on the mental health side, because we're talking here about rather negative and sort of doomsday scenarios that may affect us. I just want to highlight that the city, as part of their emergency response team, they have a specific pillar on mental health, where they are coordinating services from a variety of service providers, and they are looking at strengthening and keeping that alive as an essential service. So I think that also applies to business owners that really get into trouble and where that weighs heavy. Don't be afraid to access those services. I believe they will be available over the next little while, and the city is looking after that. So just keep that in mind as a resource. There is professional support to help you with your thinking to stay positive and not go down really dark rabbit holes.
Thank you. That's a really good point, Peter. Are you saying that counseling is an essential service? Hopefully it is, right?
Yeah, so I think it's sort of in the gray, so between the shelter, but social services, but there's a lot of stuff that you can do online or over the phone. And so even if the doors are closed, those services can still be offered.
Yeah, and I'd also like to just say, like, there's a lot of stigma around counseling, I think, and myself, my husband, and many incredibly intelligent, successful people that I look up to go to counseling on a regular basis. I go proactively now. I go every 2 weeks, or now I do it on the phone, but I mean, I do it ahead of time, you know, rather than calling and being like, oh, I've self-sabotaged or whatever we do, you know. Counseling does not mean you're crazy. Counseling is really, really good for you. And it's, if you have a tummy ache, you go to the doctor. So I always say, if you're having an emotional challenge, you know, you should be getting help. Going on Facebook and Instagram and being nasty to other people and lashing out in all sorts of other ways is not helping anyone, but counseling can really, really help. So I'm really glad you brought that up, Peter. And yeah, I'm proud to say that I go to counseling, and I think it's awesome. I think everyone should check it out if they're struggling. Does anybody else have anything they want to share? I see a hand. Andrea, yep.
Hi, okay. I have kind of two-ish questions. I kind of missed the beginning. I was kind of like in the van and had it on, but was also driving and doing things. Someone mentioned the 40,000 loan for small businesses, and I was just wondering if whoever brought that up knew the application guidelines, because everything that that we've read is for businesses that have had 2-year ends. So we are brand new, haven't been open a year, and everything that I've read as far as loans, we don't qualify for. And then hearing on this call, like, I was under the impression that the $2,000 per month, it says self-employed on there. So does that not qualify owners of businesses that have no income? Because someone said when Ryan was talking about taking dividends, it was mentioned to him that she didn't know if owners qualified for that. So I kind of have those two questions, because, you know, because if that's true, that us as owners, when, you know, we've lost, if this goes longer than May, we'll have 0 income.
Yeah. So Shelley, do you want to answer that one? Sorry, you're unmuted now. Go ahead, Shell.
Sure. Andrea, we don't know the details of how to apply for this newly announced 40,000 today, but they're supposed to have more details on Monday. But I do feel, because it's guaranteed by the government and that sort of thing, that it'll be easier to get than others. I know what you're saying, that they usually need past financial statements and stuff to get a business loan. That's pretty common. But I think for this one, it'll be a lot easier, but we'll find out more for that on Monday for sure. And then the other question, it really depends how they're defining, I think, self-employed, because some business owners, yes, are closed, but are still making an income. So I don't know how they would define who's eligible for that. And I think more of that will come out too, especially once the application's out, but that's not until April 6th. So
can you tell her where to watch for that too? Like, would it be that same place Trevor said with the one link where everything?
yeah, they'll have more details on that for sure. And then I believe the applications will be through the CRA accounts and that sort of thing, but we'll definitely have more details in the coming days for sure, because that's next week basically.
Did you miss that link, Andrea? We can tell you what it is again here. What is it, Laura? Alberta dot.
CA/COVID-19.
Alberta.ca/COVID-19. So you can just watch there, and hopefully Monday there'll be more information on that. Does anybody else have any questions before we get off here?
I got one question, probably for Shelley, about that 75-20-25 split benefit. Have they said anything about remittances, if we're only paying 25% of the remittances as well, or do you know anything about that?
We find that out on Monday too, because they're going to have to change things, because before with the 10% one, it was just reducing the income tax part of the remittances. And so now that they've upped it to 75%, it's just, that's not possible. So I think on Monday we'll know more, and I had a worksheet that worked for the 10% one. So we'll have to get updates to everything, and we'll make sure you get it.
Oh, sorry guys, there's a message here that I didn't see from Amber. Everyone should make sure they have my account set up with CRA in preparation for April 6th. So how do they do that, Amber?
So you can go to CRA. The quickest way, if you don't have it and you don't have access, just Google my account CRA. It'll be the top one that comes up, and you'll have a couple options on there. One of them will be log in, and the other one will be register. I registered my husband the other day, and it took me 2.5 hours to get through to register his. But I did it for a friend last night at 10 o'clock at night, no problem. So choose non-peak hours, give it a go, and know that it's going to time out on you. So you've only got about 3 minutes to finish the whole process.
Okay, guys, any other questions before we log off here? Thank you guys so much for giving your time and for contributing to each other and for being vulnerable enough to ask questions and for keeping, you know, some hope and some optimism. I hope that all of you find ways to keep your businesses going, even though they might be closed. I think there probably is a way for most of us, and if not, I hope that you find another business that comes out of this that's even better, or you're just able to take a few months and chill with your family and relax on the government benefits and enjoy some of that tax you've been giving them for the last however many years. Appreciate your guys' time. I know time is really precious, so thank you for joining us. And we'll this call has been recorded, so we can share the recording with anybody who likes it. They can just let us know. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Cal.
Take care.
Thank you, Kelly.
Bye, guys. Thank you.